So if your sales team is busy, but your revenue sort of feels stuck, then this KPI can help, help you understand. And so your close rates on your run estimates is going to show whether your estimate volume is, turning into jobs or is it, just wasted windshield time. And so here I want to show you exactly how to calculate this. And we're going to use the weeks, calculate this by week, have how many estimates were given by the week, how many were closed, sold, what is the close rate, and then a target. And that's what the orange line is here. And then we're going to break it down even further to do this by, sales rep and then lead source. And then to get, a percent close. And then also have sort of a dynamic changing cell to where as you change this, you can just see what's below. Say you want 75%. Well, it's like you don't really have any. And also the final part is going to be this here. And what this is going to show is going to be the number. So Alex Martinez for builder, partner gave 4 estimates based off that lead source. For Facebook Meta ads, he gave 4 estimates and he closed 0. So that's, something valuable to look at. And so let's get started. What we need in this data set that you see here is this has a lot of information. And if you want this file, there's a link to download it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email. But essentially, it's going to have the things like estimate ID, when was the estimate ran, and then when was the start of the week, who's the rep, lead source, what are they, what's the service, estimate amount, discount proposed, and then was financing offered, and then was it sold, was financing used, and then why'd you lose the deal, and then also how long did it take. And so this is a pretty in-depth data set. You should be able to recreate this. If you need some help doing it, let me know. I can help you out. But the only thing we really need to calculate here is the week start date, because you might not have this in your data set. But to do this by week, you would want to, I think my camera went out. You would want to have this. You could always use the week number function if you wanted to, like equals, week num, and then do this, and you would get a number. And you could do it this way, but the benefit of doing it like this is you can see the actual date in the data set. And the way you calculate this, it's a little bit tricky, but essentially you would need to get the weekday number of this, meaning, so January 1st is, January 1st is a Thursday, which is 5 days after, right? So if I do weekday of this, weekday of the date, you're going to get a number 5. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? So that's 5. The one thing with this is, the way I did it this time is I made the week start on a Monday instead of on a Sunday. I mean, usually it's on a Sunday, but here I did a Monday. So if you do a comma and then 2, right, now you get a 4. And so what you do in the formula here is you take equals, it's going to be equal when the estimate was ran minus the weekday. So equals this minus the weekday of the same thing, comma, but we want 2. You see over here off to the right, we want 2 because we're going to do a Monday. And so what that's going to do is it's going to spit out 1 day higher. We need to add back in 1. We're getting 1128, but we want plus 1 because we want to add back in the Monday. And so that's how you do the formula, which is also here. I'm going to remove this from the data set. I mean, what I can do is I can just do this. Usually when you have to do formulas, it's best to do it on the right side. It's not a good idea to do it inside the data set, like in the middle. And the reason is because as you copy and paste new data, you don't have to like segment, your data. You don't have to add, okay, like I need to put it here, so I'm going to copy this from the imported data and then copy this. As or if you do it off to the right side, then you could just do it all, you just copy and paste everything at once. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to get a unique list of all of the starting date of the week. And we can do that by using the unique function. Let's just call this week start equals unique And then over here, we want this. And now you can see we have a unique list here. And then we want estimates per week sold, and then you could do close rate and then a, benchmark. I'll just center everything this way. Okay, so because this data set, it's all estimates, we just need to count the number of times the week is there, right? So in other words, for 1229, we're going to want a count of 13. And then, for 1/5, we want to get the count of that, for 1/12, so on and so forth. So to do that, it's really straightforward. Just COUNTIF, right? COUNTIFS. Either one works. COUNTIFS is multiple criteria. So I'll show you that actually in the next formula. So I'm still going to use COUNTIFS because COUNTIFS is for one or more, as for COUNTIF is only for one. And I always use COUNTIFS. So we just want to COUNTIF this, comma, and then B3. B3 is this cell here. Then you can double click that down. So now we need to see how many were sold, meaning the sold flag, right? So we have a sold flag. Is it true or false? So true means it was sold, false means it wasn't. So it's going to be essentially the same formula with an extra criteria. So COUNTIF this, comma, B3, because it's B3 on the other sheet, and then sold flag, comma, true, and you get 4. Double click that down, and now you can get a simple close rate just by dividing the two. Press Control Shift and the number 5 to get a percentage, and then let's set a benchmark to 45%. And then underneath that, I'm going to do equals the one above it. And the reason for this is because I want to make a dynamic changing cell. So whenever we add the chart, we'll be able to easily change the values. Okay, so here what I want to do is and you can do it on estimates or on sold for the blue columns, or you don't even need the blue columns really. I mean, if you want them, you can have them. But I'll do it on the estimates given, and then also copy the other 2 lines, or the other, sorry, 2 columns. So if you just go to here, cell B2, shift right arrow, control shift down arrow, and then hold down control and highlight the other 2, and go to insert, and then recommended charts. And you can sort of see like this is looking somewhat useful, but the close rate isn't there. And the reason is because it is there, but it's on the bottom. And so it's using the wrong axes. It's using the estimates per week axes when it's 0.31, 31%. So if you go to all charts, combo, you can sort of see now the green line is at the bottom, but it's super simple to fix that. All you have to do is let's just make sure the close rate and the benchmark are both lines, and then we want them on a secondary axis, just like that. And so from here, we can call this close rate on estimates by week, WK or week, whatever you want. And then from here, we just have to do a little bit of housekeeping, make it sort of look, more legible. And so I'm going to double click on the columns, go to the paint bucket, and then we can do, solid fill. You can make it that blue. Same here, solid fill. Let's make it the same blue, which is this blue here. And then we want to make it wider. So here on the width, let's just make it, until it's something you like, I'll do 3.25. And then the last thing we want to do is for this green line, it's taking up too much real estate. We want to see it, but we want it to be super thin. So click on that line, again, paint bucket. And if you don't see the Format Data Series dialog box come up, just double click on the line. But let's make this, say, 1 point, and then, I don't know, orange. And then we can do some dashes of some sort, maybe like this. And now you can see it's just there, just enough to see that, okay, if the red line is above the orange line, then you're doing good, right? Your close rate is higher. And you can see that here, 57 versus 40. And that's what you have here. You can see 57% on the 12th. And so, yeah, so that's sort of step 1. So we have that, which is useful. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to see the close rate by sales rep and by lead source. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get a unique list of the sales rep. So again, unique, just like we did for the week start, unique sales rep here, and then you can press enter. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's sorted alphabetically. So I'm going to wrap this with the sort function. And then now it's sorted alphabetically. Highlight it, Control C, Control Shift V, and then the same thing for the leads. So again, sort unique, what's it called? Table, the table run, lead source, and now you have that. Again, Control C, Control Shift V to remove the formulas, but now I'm going to press Control C again. Or here, let me drag this over here, Control C, because I want this to be across the top. So instead of, having to drag everything, I want to do it faster. So Control C, right click ST. So paste special transpose ST. S is in Sally, T is in Tom. Okay, so now we need to figure out how many were sold versus how many estimates were given, right? So we need to figure out in the numerator, what we need is how many were sold. So it has the sold flag of true, and then how many estimates were given, which is just a count of the name and the lead source, because that sheet, everything is an estimate, right? So what we want to do is we want to COUNTIFS. So let's just do the numerator, and the numerator is going to be, and you can do it in any order. So what we'll do is we'll do table run, sales rep is this, comma, table run, lead source is this, comma, and then table run, and then sold flag is true. And I'll just show you. So now we have a number. So now what we need to do is just divide this by the same thing, but remove the sold flag argument, right? Because that's going to include both. And now you get the percentage. And then I want to drag this across, but you see there's an error. And the reasoning is because you can see the blue here. We need to lock these cells. We need to tell Excel, like, hey, as I drag this to the left and the right, left to right, I want Alex Martinez to say the same, but I want builder partner to become direct mail. And the way you do that is by locking the columns for those sales rep and locking the rows. So for the columns, put the $sign before the letter. For the rows, put the $sign before the number and after the letter. And you can also cycle through this by pressing F4. And it's still not going to work if you drag it, because that's just tables. So you can see sales rep is lead source now, and we don't want that. So just copy and then paste here. And so we got that. And then finally, I want to do the benchmark, say 45%. So I'm just going to type 45% into any cell, and then I'm going to highlight this data and then go to home, conditional formatting, highlight cell rules less than 45. Okay, so the final thing I want to do is, well, two more things. One, I want this to say benchmark, just so your team knows. So press Control-1, custom, quotations, benchmark, say colon space, quotations, and now you have that. And then the final thing I want to do is just copy this. I'm going to paste it here. And then I'm just going to put the denominator of this formula here, because we just want how many opportunities did they have. And then I just want to move the cells to match here, and then copy, and then paste. And so yeah, that's how you can set this problem up. And so the benefit of having something like this is that you can see how many jobs were done. So 2 jobs is like, okay, maybe it's not time to coach them. But here, 2 jobs and 0%, like maybe, for Taylor Wynn outbound, they had 2 opportunities and then they closed 0 of them. And so you can see here, this person had 3 opportunities and closed 0 of them for Facebook ads. And also it'll show you lead sources. So like maybe Facebook's not a good lead source. You have more finicky people. But anyways, if you have any questions on this, shoot me an email, questions@databoards.io. If you want this file, you can download it. If you want to hop on a call, there's a link in the download or in the comments. But that's all I got for this one, and I'll see you in future videos.